Hi, my name is Peadar Duffy. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called SoluxR. SoluxR is a manufactured name. It's comprised of two words, solus and lux, from the Irish to illuminate and Latin to illuminate. Why is that relevant and important in today's world, this world that's growing in uncertainty? The reason that is important and relevant is because organizations have a tremendous need today to have some sense of what is around the corner, given what's going on in the world. Think for a moment about the WHO, its concerns that we are just now at the start of a recurring cycle of extremely dangerous recurring pandemics. Think about runaway weather events. Think about multipolar geopolitical tensions occurring across the world, trade tensions and so forth. Think about the technology advances and the impact of AI on jobs. Think about persistent cybersecurity attacks. And think about the tsunami of growing regulatory demands on organizations to demonstrate that those organizations understand their principal risks and how they can safeguard all of their stakeholders, their customers, their employees, their shareholders from harm. When we consider the current wave of uncertainty that has overtaken the world, the global shock arising from COVID-19, we have massive uncertainties, but now organizations, in attempting to maintain a business as usual posture, have more people working from home. For risk managers, for CROs, this is a tremendous challenge, because when people are working from home, it means that the second line, the risk managers within organizations, can no longer conduct face-to-face meetings. They cannot conduct workshops. They cannot travel. And these are principal means by which the second line of defense, risk managers, gather information so that the organization can see what's going on. In the midst of this new way of working, we have tremendous cutbacks, and we have boards of directors and management teams wanting more. What are the practical problems for risk managers? Well, if risk managers cannot make direct physical contact or consistent virtual contact with frontline decision makers, they cannot see what those decision makers are saying. They have no sense of what is around the corner. With no face-to-face meetings, with no workshops and so forth, the traditional methods of undertaking risk assessments are clearly no longer fit for purpose. This means that we have low to no visibility of what's worrying frontline decision makers and their business enablers. The board of directors essentially has no clue as to what is going on across the organization. It cannot be fully sure that the level of assurances that it was used to receiving prior to COVID-19 are as reliable as they were before. Before I give you a quick demo, I'd just like you to reflect for a moment on the slide in front of you. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the traditional method of undertaking risk assessments, where people gather the facts through meetings and workshops. They extract findings through use of Excel. They draw conclusions from the tables and the charts produced from Excel, and they make recommendations. We can get rid of all of that now using proven technologies, where we gather the facts online, algorithms to extract the findings, online collaboration to draw conclusions. And now, no longer do we use PDFs and PowerPoints in making recommendations. We use a real live decision support sandbox. Keep those points in mind as I bring you through the demo just now. So going to the software, I've just brought us straight here to an example of our input data screen. It couldn't be easier. All that happens is a person receives a dynamic link from SoluxR. They enter in their contact details and then they go straight into the assessment. Notice on the right-hand side of the screen here, how it appears on a typical mobile phone. Because we're talking here about risk management, and more particularly in this example here, enterprise risk management, here we have a list of typical objectives against which a person might complete an assessment. What can stop them, what can slow them down towards the achievement of an objective. They select the objective that they want to complete their assessment against. They complete their observations in natural free language, in any language, any form of language they wish to use, 138 languages in the back end of this system. They determine whether or not the issue that they're talking to or the matter that they're talking to is either an issue or an opportunity. They go next, and bear in mind that this was the first objective that they selected on the earlier page. And they simply select values. What is their ability to demonstrate the opportunity they selected? Are they unable to demonstrate? Are they fully able to demonstrate? This clearly is a simple 1 to 5 scale in language that people can easily understand. What is the potential impact of the opportunity? Minor impact or significant impact? What capital is affected? And SWOT. Now notice, for example, had the person picked issue with regards to the achievement of this objective, something that might stop them or slow them down, I suppose an opportunity, then clearly issue would appear here. This is important from a data architecture perspective and how the information is rendered on the output side. One more thing to do, and that is to complete the action plan. What system are you using for project management? Pick one. What exactly needs to be done? Who will do it? In how many weeks? And that's it. And you go straight to the next objective and you complete the process. It couldn't be easier. Very, very fast, very easy. Assessments completed in seconds, or rather minutes, on mobile devices. What does the output data look like? The information I'm presenting here is taken directly from the input data. For ease of demonstration, I'm talking here in terms of just 18 responses. It could be 1,800 responses, it could be 18,000 responses. It really does not matter from a system perspective. The size of the bubble relates to the number of records. Now, we always start in SoluxR presenting what we call the big button information first. Why? In the case of this example, we're talking about enterprise risk management. An enterprise risk is a risk which can affect the enterprise, can hit the enterprise somewhere, let's say, under the waterline. It's a type of thing that boards of directors, board risk committees, chief risk officer, senior management want to understand. This big button information presents the high level information. If you have a risk committee or a management team, management committee, risk committee, that wants to look to the next level of detail down from this big button information, they might go to ERM SWOT settings. And notice before I do that, all of these filters here that are available. What country, what region, what business unit, role types, particularly important if you're trying to pick up issues that are being observed by different roles across the world. Massively important to give the machine the opportunity to highlight for you those things that are of common concern across the world that you mightn't have understood or been aware of beforehand. SWOT settings is the next level down. Particularly useful if we want to get some sense of the kind of decisions that people are making on the front lines, your frontline decision makers, those people who own the P&L, that are punching through those revenue targets, that are trying to create new products, break into new markets, and so forth. Here we have the same filters, the same, let us say, numerical analysis from a SWOT perspective here. And let us say I want to understand, identify those particular strengths that have a high potential impact. I filter. And I simply move my cursor onto the particular strength, and the tooltip information presents all the information that has been captured by the particular respondent or respondents. Getting into the more detail, perhaps not for the board or the risk committee, but for management or the risk program office, the chief risk officer's function. Here we have a representation of all of the objectives that you saw on the input data. The size of the bubble reflects the number of records. Each bubble reflects the actual objective, the numerical analysis, the filters. I can select by objective. You'll notice how the filters change in the bottom. The impact analysis. Another review of the same data. Again, notice the filters. Filters are incredibly important, particularly if you have hundreds or thousands of respondents, each selecting multiple drop-downs, resulting in multiple tens of thousands potentially of assessment points. These filters, when all applied, break it down into manageable numbers. Notice on the scale here, on the right-hand side, scale of impact. And on the left here, ability to demonstrate. And notice as well, as you move your cursor over the particular observations made by respondents, that you have the associated information entered by those people. The operations dashboard effectively is another representation of the same data. We provide these two types of output dashboards as examples of the way in which we can visualize the data for you. But if you're used to another method of sharing information, of visualizing information and data, then we can build that for you, or you can build it yourself. And finally, the risk register. Typically not a document that is used by the senior team when making those big strategic decisions. But the risk committee needs to have it. The regulators demand it. And essentially, it is simply an output data report reflecting all of the input data that was received during the input phase. So to conclude, with SoluxR, we have automated the entire risk assessment methodologies and practices that exist in organizations. No training required, no taxonomies required. The machines read what people enter. We can deliver reports at speed and at ease. And one final thing to observe and to just reflect on. When you consider the availability of these filters, now imagine the kind of scenarios that you can develop, the kind of information you can provide to modelers, particularly when we're taking stress testing, particularly in the context of trying to get your arms around the size of the potential impacts, positive or negative, that are potentially facing your organization as you move forward. So an added feature here, of course, there being scenario development and model testing. If you visit the SoluxR website, on the Solutions tab, you will see those solutions today that we are experiencing significant demand for. I referred in my demonstration just now to our enterprise risk management solution as the one that seems to have the greatest appeal across organizations. But why would you select SoluxR? Earlier, I spoke about the evolution in risk management from traditional management, or rather manual approaches, to those that are leveraging the power of AI-enabled tools. On this slide here, you will see the SoluxR approach in the middle, and the traditional approaches that are no longer fit for purpose. This slide speaks to speed, the ease with which assessments can now be undertaken. No longer just doing 10 assessments over a week or two, but 1,000 over days. No errors, better use of people, and at a fraction of the cost. Thank you.